All right, my name is David Oratokhai. I'm a final year student of Covenant University, computer science, and you all are about to witness my very first TED Talk, so please put your hands together for yourselves. All right, so this is, in fact, the first time I'll be speaking in front of an audience this large. So if you see me shaking, don't panic, I'm okay. But then if I faint on this stage, just know that I tried. All right, so let's get to it. Let me begin by asking a question. If you've ever met someone for the very first time and then you just didn't like them, maybe it was something they said, something they did, something they posted on their story on Instagram, or it was even they didn't do or say anything, it was just their vibe. Please raise your hand, let me see. Wow, that's a lot of people. So there are two kinds of people in this world. There's good people and then there's you people. So, but I can't judge you, right? Because I'm also as guilty. In fact, I think I'm very, very guilty of this. I'm a 400 level student, and from 100 level to 400 level, I've met a lot of people. And many of those people I have met, I didn't like initially. But here's the kicker. Those people I didn't like initially are people that I now genuinely care about and are my really good friends. So the million-dollar question is, what changed between the time of my initial distaste and dislike of these people and my newfound fondness? That's the question we're going to be answering. Within the next 10 minutes, I'm going to be completely shifting the way you see the world, people, and relationships. So I want you to sit back and just make a mental screenshot of your mind state right now and you compare it to what's at the end. Because what I'm about to share is a secret that has helped me tremendously in my young life and has played a huge role as to how I stand before you on one of the largest and most glorified stages in the whole of West Africa. All right, so let's get to it. I'll tell you a story. I was supposed to have slides, but they're not up. I'll just go on. So this story is about me. And last year, I went on a 6-month internship at a big multinational, and I met a lot of people there. But upon going there, I had preconceived notions on how to address people, handle conflicts, and all of that, the whole nine. But what I didn't know was the next 6 months were going to completely shift the way I saw the world. So I met this other guy. He was resuming the very same day I was resuming at work. Let's call him Joseph. Now, Joseph, in a sense, was the complete opposite of me. Joseph had a way of interacting with people that rubbed me off the wrong way. Joseph would make jokes with colleagues and superiors in ways I felt inappropriate. Joseph would insert himself in conversations I felt he shouldn't have the right to. And it made me feel like, who is this guy? What gives him the right? But here's the funny thing. I was the only one that had that kind of perception of Joseph. Everyone else in the office loved him. And I wondered why. It was not until I took a step back that I realized what was going on. So I'll tell you a bit about myself. My upbringing was a very, very structured one, and I really appreciate my parents for it. Everything to the letter had order. I knew what to say, who to say, what to say to, when to say, what to say to, who to say to, everything. I'm talking about every single thing. But Joseph had a lot more freedom and leeway growing up, and it gave him advantages that I couldn't even think of reaching. I will even tell you, I think it was last week, I was craving noodles for dinner. So I got noodles, and then we all know veggies, right? Yeah, that thing we buy to make us feel like we're eating nutritional. Yeah, I got veggies, and I also love them because they taste really good. So I got veggies, and then I got a mango. So when I finished having dinner that night, I enjoyed myself, and I texted my mom because I was proud. I felt like I had something healthy. So I texted my mom, Mom, I had noodles for dinner, and I had a mango. And then she said, David, please stop eating Indomie. You know it is not good for your health. You know we don't eat it in this house anymore. And then to my mango message, which I thought was going to impress her, she said, David, please stop eating mango. People artificially ripen it. And I was like, what then do I eat? But yeah, I love my mom. She's an amazing person. I know she's probably watching this right now, so please give it up for her. So yeah, I say all this to say, the kind of upbringing I had growing up puts me in a place where I thought there could only be two things. I could only be respectful or disrespectful. And that's the issue with our society today. As humans, we've been conditioned to believe that there's only two things and nothing more. We draw a defining line between circumstances and separate them into categories so we can be certain what side we would be on that would identify us and we would identify ourselves with. Because this is the kicker. We believe that certainty defines us, but that's a lie. And I'll tell you how. What certainty does is it closes our mind off to what could possibly be because we think that what we have in our head is correct and right, and what everybody else has that's contrary to what we have is wrong. What makes us grow and learn is not certainty, and what even helps us define ourselves isn't certainty. It's the opposite of certainty, it's doubt. Doubt leaves our mind open so that we can learn, so that we can grow. And we all know the saying, and Fisal talked about it before he left. We all know the saying, the moment you stop learning, you start dying. I'm going to add to that today, and I'm going to say the moment you become certain, you stop evolving, and then you start dying. So we believe that the world is black and white, and that's really what my talk is about today. But the world isn't black and white. The world isn't here or there. The world is everything that exists in between. Now, everything that exists in between is not a very, very comfortable place for us. So we would like to believe that this is what we should be on. We are either on this side or on that side. But what exists in between is where the real world exists. And so we disillusion ourselves. We're disillusioned, and then we think that what we are is either here or there. Now, the only way we can navigate around this real world that I'm defining is through the application of nuance, because the real world is very murky. It's very uncomfortable. It's very complex because it involves people, and humans are messy, right? So, what is nuance? Nuance, the way I define it, is the subtle, often overlooked, and nearly invisible detail in life. And it exists between two extremes. It's the shade of meaning that exists between black and white. Nuance would help you say, this and this can both be true, even though they seem to be of opposing values. And let me take it further. If I'm going to explain nuance, I have to explain two things. And these two things are the manner of thinking that we as humans apply when it comes to decision making. So the first one is dualistic thinking, right? So dualistic thinking is this idea that the world is made up of clear opposites, black or white. And then these clear opposites, and the thing about dualistic thinking is what a lot of us were raised with, so that we can identify, understand, and make clear boundaries. But the thing is, we need to evolve from that, because it's what we're raised with, but that's not what the real world entails. Black or white, saints versus sinner, us versus them, good or bad, rich or successful, rich or poor, successful or failure. That's what dualistic thinking entails. It makes us feel comfortable, makes us feel in control, but the thing is, the real world does not follow that script. Now, non-dualistic thinking is the maturity of thoughts that embraces contradiction and what seems like conflict. Non-dualistic thinking will understand that these two things, they seem to contradict, but they can both hold and contain some element of truth. Now, to drive my point home, I'm going to tell us a story. Now, this story is about a man, a very successful businessman in Abuja. Let's call him Mr. Kalu. Now, Mr. Kalu was, how many of us watch Suits or have watched Suits? Right, my guys, yeah. So, you know Harvey Specter. Mr. Kalu is like the Harvey Specter of Abuja. He, sharp suits, sharp tongue, always busy, has something to do. And then he has this driver. Let's call this driver Musa. Now, Musa was very quiet. Musa never said more than a sentence to Mr. Kalu. Yes, sir. Okay, sir. His expression very glum, always sad. He never really engaged with Mr. Kalu more than having to do the job that he was employed for. Now, 2 years in, they never really had a real conversation. But one evening, Musa is driving Mr. Kalu back home from work. And as he's driving him back home, it's raining, the traffic is heavy, and while they're trying to navigate the traffic, an Okada rider scratches the car, and Mr. Kalu flies off the handle. And he's yelling, "Are you mad? Do you think this is your father's car? Do you know who I am?" You know, the normal Nigerian thing to do. And then, while he's yelling, Musa parks the car. He comes down from the car, walks to the Okada man, pulls out a stack of cash from his pocket, and then gives it to the man and sends him off on his way. He gets back into the car, and then Mr. Kalu says, "Why would you give him any money?" And for the first time in 2 years, Musa said more than a sentence. He said, "That boy reminded me of my son. He used to ride the Okada like that, and on a rainy evening like this, he got into an accident, and I never got to say goodbye." The rest of the ride home was silent, just like this. Mr. Kalu couldn't sleep that night. He kept thinking of how, for the past 2 years, he had sat next to someone, and he never really knew who he was. He had a conception of the person, but that was wrong. And then for the first time again, he saw Musa as not just an employee or a driver. He saw him as a person, as a father, and most importantly, as a human being. You see, what we do in our society today is we only see people through the labels that we slap on them, and we make judgments based off of what we can see on the surface. And that robs us of the opportunity to experience the depth of their stories. People aren't either here or there. People exist in between. You know, what if that person that you think is rude isn't rude, but they're dealing with a grief too heavy for a hello? What if that person isn't just loud, but that's how they survived and a coping mechanism they used to cope in their home and where they came from? Nuance helps us ask why before we say no. Nuance teaches us that behind every silence, there's a sentence that was never spoken, a sentence that never made it out. Behind every rude person might be a pain that we may never have the eyes to see. So that's what nuance does for us. And it's sad that in our world today, the danger of black and white thinking is that it limits us, and then it makes us label people based on what we can see. Like I said, when what we can't see is what really controls and drives people. We need to see that our world today has made it such that we only see through monochromatic lenses. If you're not on my side, then you're my enemy. What I want us to do from this day on, in order for us to become better people, is take those monochromatic lenses off. Because I believe it's time for us to live in the real world, the real messy world. And it's time for us to live in it with its complexity that's riddled with its undeniable beauty. Because I truly believe that the real essence of life is the beauty of nuance. Thank you very much.